This podcast is rated S for spoilers. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Half Past Podcast. This is episode 72, the movie review of Star Wars The Last Jedi. Finally, yes. There is no trailer for this week because this is basically a makeup cast. So I'm Graham Ricks, and here with me is my friend and co-pilot Ian Jones.
Wish I had something clever to say. I mean, between you getting sick and me getting sick, and I saw the movie twice. I mean, there was a bunch of stuff I felt like I missed the first time, so I had to go twice.
All right, cool. I wouldn't mind watching it again.
Yes, I know. It's one of those kind of movies, man.
Yeah, right?
I wish I had some awesome Star Wars thing to say right now, but
nice.
I'm just... One thing is we're rusty.
Oh yeah.
And
Dusting the microphones off. Yes, it's pretty bad.
We're gonna get warmed up, I think, as it goes. Yeah. And then,
I'm sure we'll get warmed up.
Start shaving some heads.
It's just been a crazy couple months, man. It was just oh man, both of us were in the hospital. It was just ridiculous, man. So we've just been so far behind on all the movies, and I really there's a lot of movies I want to see. Oddly enough, it's I still want to see Shape of Water, which I think we should do next week.
Sure.
I want to do. I want to watch Greatest Showman, because why not? And then what's another one? God, I can't think of any other movies at the top of my head right now. But it just seemed like there was a ton that I wanted to watch, and I just missed all these opportunities because I haven't been able to sit up straight for a while because surgery. But it's been such an interesting couple months, man. And it's excited to talk to you again, buddy. It's been a while.
Yes, especially with something that brings us together.
Right?
Well, actually, I don't know what you thought of the movie. We'll see if.
Oh yeah, well, it has some mixed reviews, man. It's like the critics love the movie, but the audience not so much. It's really weird.
Okay, so we definitely need to dive in.
Yeah, we'll have to dive in and just really kind of just figure this out. Do you want to just move forward?
Let's move forward? Yeah.
All right, okay. So let's start with the synopsis, and then I'm going to take a break. All right, so Rey develops her newly discovered abilities with the guidance of Luke Skywalker, who is unsettled by the strength of her powers. Meanwhile, the Resistance prepares for battle with the First Order. This movie is directed by Rian Johnson, and I've always liked Rian Johnson. He hasn't done a lot of movies, but his first movie that he did was Brick, and Brick's a really good little movie. Have you seen Brick?
No, I think the only other thing of his that I've seen is Looper.
He also did Looper. Both of them have Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it, so apparently he likes working with him. Who knows? Maybe when he gets that new starting of the Star Wars trilogy, we'll see Joseph Gordon-Levitt in a Star Wars movie.
That would be great.
Right?
I could see that working somehow.
Right? And it's so funny. I have a brief little story with Rian Johnson because my father's been a Star Wars fan since the beginning in the 70s. And so when they announced all these different directors, because they've been using a lot of these directors that are not as well known, and so they used Gareth Edwards for Rogue One, and then they have Rian Johnson for this one. The only one that was really big was J.J. Abrams. But the thing about Rian Johnson is he's one of those directors that's a writer and a director and a producer. So he does a lot of his own things. So he's got that creative side to him to where I could trust him with something like Star Wars. But my father had no idea, he didn't know about this guy at all. And I was just kind of Dad, it's cool. Like, I'm on the phone, I talk to him every week about movies. And so he was just like, when they announced him, he was just like, I don't know who this guy is. I'm 40 years in. I don't want any risks. And and I'm like, Dad, it's cool. It's cool. This is Rian Johnson. He's really good. He's a smart guy, and I think he can handle it. He's just like, no, man, no. And so it was kind of just a funny thing that my father was when I was talking about him about this movie, when I was talking with him about it. So it was kind of funny. And so I've always liked Rian Johnson, and I was telling my dad that he did Looper also, and he's like, well, Looper was all right, but I don't know. Like, he was just like so invested because it's been so long with Star Wars. So it was just kind of a funny thing. This movie starring Mark Hamill, of course, as Luke Skywalker. He's played the Joker numerous times, and he's the best Joker in terms of voice, for sure. And he's just like so perfect every time. Every time I picture the Joker, this is the one that I always think of. Village of the Damned, which is, Village of the Damned. And then Kingsman: The Secret Service, where it hardly looks like him at all. That's like the first time you see him like on film for like a long time. And you're just like, what the hell is that, Mark?
He was doing, right, well, he was doing a British accent, and he was not in Jedi shape, so...
No, he was not.
They immediately took him from that and said, okay, old man, you gotta... It's time to get back to it here. You gotta save the galaxy, or not.
No,
or not. We might decide that you just don't.
Yep, right. And the thing, when I watched Keys to Secret Service with Mark Hamill, it's similar to when I was watching, while I was out, I finished Stranger Things 2.
Nice.
And it took me a long time to realize that the scientist guy, the guy from Aliens, what the heck is his name?
The scientist guy.
He was in Mad About You.
Oh, Paul Reiser.
It took me like several episodes, and I'm like, that's Paul Reiser. Like, it didn't look like Paul Reiser. I was just like, what? Yeah, I haven't seen Paul Reiser in like 20 years, so it was really weird to see him in that movie. Or in that show. Stranger Things is awesome. Everybody watch Stranger Things.
Way to come into something late, buddy.
Right?
Hey, I'm glad you finally watched it so we can talk about Stranger Things.
Nice.
Hey, anytime we can get Paul Reiser into a podcast, that's...
Right?
Finger guns over here.
Nice. All right, so let's get back. I've totally derailed. Okay. Anyway.
Whatever. Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker.
Mark Hamill
That's
as
the only
Luke
thing
Skywalker.
you need to know about him.
Carrie Fisher as Leia Organa.
All right.
She was in the Blues Brothers and When Harry Met Sally.
Damn you.
Adam Driver as Kylo Ren. He was in Girls, Lincoln, and While We Were Young. Daisy Ridley as Rey.
Daisy.
Yep, Daisy. was on Murder on the Orient Express. She has not been very busy at all. It's a shame, because it'd be nice to see her in more things. John Boyega as Finn. He was in Attack the Block in that Detroit movie. Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron. He was in Ex Machina, and of course that X-Men Apocalypse movie that we also did a rating on, if you want to go listen to that podcast.
He was so close, and we've talked about this before, but he was so close to being the next Jason Bourne.
Yes.
That it's kind of funny, because had that opportunity come up now, they would have given it to him.
Yeah, I'm sure they would. There would have been no question about it. Andy Serkis is Snoke, who is one of the greatest actors of our generation that doesn't get any credit, but he was in Lord of the Rings as Gollum, he was King Kong, and he also is Caesar in the Planet of the Apes movies, the new ones. Lupita Nyong'o as Maz Kanata. She was in 12 Years a Slave, and she was also in The Jungle Book.
Can I just say something real quick? Because I don't think I actually wrote this down, but...
What's that?
There needs to be more of this character and of Lupita. Yeah, I really didn't like that she just,
Yeah, she has
60 seconds maybe.
Yep, she had movie. Like a 60, and it was an awesome, like, funny 60 seconds.
Right. Okay.
It was one of those scenes in the movie that I really thought was just one of the things I liked about this movie. We're jumping around like crazy, but one of the things I liked about this movie was that there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie, and it's a fairly serious movie, but it has a lot of little funny things in there, so it doesn't quite take itself too seriously at moments, because it is still Star Wars. So this is one of those scenes that was just like a funny sequence to have in there with this character, and I agree. I would like to see more of Maz in the movies. Domhnall Gleeson as General Hux. He was in Harry Potter, The Revenant, and American Made. The last one here, I guess I'll stop with Gwendoline Christie as Captain Phasma, and she was in Game of Thrones, and that's about all she's been into. You got any questions for these characters, Jones?
No, I'm locked and loaded here.
Locked and loaded. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's take a quick break, real quick, and then we'll go ahead and get into the quirks and likes section, so we can really talk this movie through. Alright, Jones, we're back with our quirks and likes section, so let's go ahead and talk this movie through, huh? So, we're going to start with my quirks, and the things that I have here are very kind of just story-related, kind of weird things that I found about this movie. And one of the things that bothered me was when Leia gets replaced by that admiral, I guess. And I can't remember her name at the time.
Vice Admiral Haldo.
Admiral, okay. When she gets replaced, there's this conflict between her and Poe. And there's the thing is she has this plan the whole time, yet she knows Poe is instinctive, and he's just going to, fight her this whole time. And she chooses not to tell him that she has an actual plan. And, it bothered me so much because it caused so much issues. Because he's, starting a mutiny, and he's doing all these things that are just, exactly what you expect the trigger-happy flyboy to do. Right. Yet she didn't just tell... Had she just told him, look, it's okay, I got this. There's a plan here. That's all she did. I don't even know if she needed to necessarily tell him it was a plan, but she's like, no, I have a plan. But she just refused to tell him anything at all. And so he's super impulsive, and so he just does all this crap. And it's just what is going on? Why didn't she just tell him that she had the plan? And that bothered me so much in this movie. Oh man. And it's so the thing is a lot of the issues I have with this movie is one of the things I liked about the movie is it has this character development in it, but then each character development has a very weird way to develop the character. So you have this problem with Poe because he's trying to learn how to become a leader, right? There's a progression. Leia keeps talking to him about how he needs to be a leader and everything, and so you have... Yeah, so there's, this progression of him being less of a trigger-happy flyboy and trying to actually be a leader, and towards the end of the movie, he's making calls that are more of a leadership role. And so there's a progression of that character, which is great, but, the cause of the progression is because that lady just wouldn't say what her plan was, and it got people killed. People were just starting a mutiny, and it was just such a ridiculous thing. The other problem I have with this, along the same lines, is that really weird pit scene. So you have Rey, and she's getting pulled to the dark. She's going directly to the dark. She falls into the pit of, I don't know, despair or whatever. And she's looking at herself in a mirror, and it's a reflection of herself, and it's almost an infinite reflection. And she realizes it's not infinite, and there's something else there. And then it ends with her seeing herself, which again is a character development type thing. But that scene is so weird. It's so weird. It's so awkward. It has this weird, like, it has that delay, so she'll, like, snap her fingers. I thought the visual was really cool, but I was just trying to figure out what was going on. And it was very reminiscent to me of episode 5 with that scene where he goes, like, down under the tree, like in the cave.
Yeah.
And that's what it's harking back to. But the thing is episode 5, that scene has always been weird. Like, it's always been a weird scene, and it stops the movie dead. And then to see it in this one again is like, what is going on? It's, like, really weird. And so, again, it's a character development thing, so, like, it progresses her character and, like, progresses the story to an extent, but, like, how they represent it is so weird, and I thought it was weird in episode 5. I always have, and it's weird in this one too. So I was just like so bothered that it like shows up again. The only other thing I have to say, and this is again along the same lines, is that really, really awkward kiss scene with Rose and Finn. Like,
it is awkward.
You're like, what? Okay, so she's like, we're not going to win this war fighting with hate, but saving the people we love, and she kisses him. And that scene is so weird because, again, it's a character development scene with Finn. So what ends up happening is Finn has pretty much been running away from fights since episode 7. Like, he's been running away
for 2 movies.
And so what ends up happening is that this is a progression of his character where he's like, no, I'm going to stay here and fight, while they pull off. He's about to get this dramatic, self-sacrifice style scene. And for me, that's a progression of his character, that he's not running anymore. Like, he's going straight for it. So that's great, but then it's interrupted by her. Like, she like saves him, and then has that awkward kiss scene. And I'm like, what is going on with this movie? So there's like so many little things about, like, all of my quirks are the same problem. Like, their character development, which is great, but the way that he does the character development is really weird. And it just like bothered me through the whole movie. And that's all I have to say. I'm done with my long rant.
Okay, well, I mean, it's funny because they, the kiss to me is really awkward because they don't have the romantic chemistry that Kylo and Rey have. But I think the message of what she has to say is super important going forward.
It is.
Especially if they're going to try to redeem Ben Solo. And I'm not entirely convinced that that's going to happen in the next movie. But I'll get into why in a little bit.
Yep.
So, I mean, I agree with you on the kiss. I think the line is really important as far as the Resistance is concerned. And
there's a lot of lines in this movie that's important to the Resistance, like how the Resistance is the spark that starts the fire that burns the First Order, or whatever, the line kind of like that. So there's a lot of that stuff in there, and about hope and things like that in this movie that's important to the Resistance and the movies moving forward. So you're not wrong on that.
I think the biggest problem that I had in this movie was the Canto Bight subplot. It's like a pointless, and I'm going to stick to this, it's a pointless side quest in a video game that, really takes you away from this exciting main storyline, and you're just like, oh no, I've got to go on this side quest. And then it doesn't even pan out. It's a bust.
Nope.
And maybe that's important for them all to get it through their thick skulls that, it worked the first time, it's not going to work the second time, and they do need to somewhat follow a chain of command. I like the message that they have allies everywhere, and that the Resistance or the Rebellion, because now I think it's going to be the Rebellion, can potentially rise again. But I'm just wondering if there's like a better way of showing it than stopping the movie. I mean, there was a really slow chase in outer space that I thought, when I saw it the first time, I was like, ooh, this isn't, I actually thought it was more exciting the second time.
Yeah.
But I think I was just more on the edge of my seat the first time, worried about,
sure.
What was going to happen to certain characters.
Yeah, it makes you more anxious.
But still, you're kind of looking at all these ships like, well, why the hell don't they just jump in from the other side? I mean, I don't understand why the First Order needs 20 or 30 Star Destroyers plus, the big supremacy.
Yeah.
All coming from one angle. That just seems kind of weird to me.
Right.
And why aren't the ships just jumping in the whole thing about the chase was really reminiscent of an episode of Battlestar Galactica. And,
I know which episode you're talking about.
And I think they handled it better in Battlestar Galactica. And, maybe that's not really the point, but if the message that you're trying to get across is that you have allies everywhere, maybe it can be handled in a different way. And it makes more sense to go on a side mission like that when they're not being chased in space. Like if they were down on Crate and Crate actually had somewhat of a chance to defend itself, once they get there, it actually seemed like kind of a stupid plan. Because they had no way of possibly defending themselves. Like, this wasn't really a great spot to make a last stand.
No, it wasn't.
And so, there's like 20 resistance people left.
Yeah, right.
They're like at max capacity on the Falcon.
Pretty much.
I'm just not sure any of it worked out, but hey, I think there's going to be a time jump and...
I was talking after the movie because I went to go see it with Jackie, and so at the end of the movie, we were thinking the exact same thing, that there's got to be the next movie's got to be a time jump, right? There's no way it could, be, shortly after what happened with this one, right? Right, yeah. It just seems like that has to happen, so...
No, I think so. I think it's going to be a few years. Rey's parentage, I actually like that she's common. I like that she doesn't come from anyone special. Yeah. I think that's a more appropriate message, especially considering who her counterpart is in this. And, it's these movies, I mean, they're definitely about Kylo and Rey, for sure. Yeah. But I think the way that it came out was so odd to me that I feel like people are just going to be arguing about it for 2 years. Kind of in the same way that, when Empire came out, they were like, no one believed Darth Vader was Luke's father. I think this is less of a shocking reveal. But, everyone, it just seems to me like there's more to that story. And I hate the idea of Rey just getting completely sold. I think it would be just a little bit sweeter if there was something more to that story, like her parents couldn't return for some reason.
Yeah, okay.
But we get this strong hero out of it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it works with her because, like you said, as a contrast to Kylo Ren and there's something just more in terms of the story of a hero, coming from nothing and becoming something is always a better story, right? So it's just one of those things that the audience would just love anyway. So it works.
I think there are a lot of fans out there that have a genuine gripe about how Luke Skywalker was handled in this movie. I actually kind of liked it. I just felt like he was too far in the wrong. I felt like they just pushed him a little too far. Like he could have been. Yeah, maybe it was just this because we almost get it. There's this awesome scene with R2 and with Yoda, and I think, wow, okay, this is. I mean, what cool callbacks. to have, but then he's still just a dick to Rey, and and quite frankly, no one wants to see that. I don't want to see that.
Well, the thing about it is,
sometimes it's funny, but we all love her, so
right.
It makes me want to slap someone. It makes me want to slap Luke.
The thing about it is for me, I really thought that this was a great. I thought it was an accurate advance of Luke as a character because, I mean, he basically left. He decided to basically go to this island and die.
To
and
die,
he wanted,
yes.
And had the Last Jedi. He just wanted to be the Last Jedi, and the Jedi should just end. And the problem about that, and the reason why I like that is because that's, for somebody who wants to go and die and be the last of something, this is kind of how you'd expect him to be. I don't know how else you'd expect him to be. He's probably been by himself for years. You know?
He has.
So it's like he clearly, and there's this line he says in the movie where he's just like, "Why do you think I'm all the way out here? Do you think this is someone who wants to be?" You know. So it's just, to me, I get like how people don't like the character because he's a jerk. He's a complete jerk through the whole thing. Yet, for somebody who's going to go off in the middle of nowhere, that makes sense that he would be this style of crazy hermit who doesn't want to have anything to do with anybody.
Oh, God. Yeah.
So I thought what they did with Luke made a lot of sense. Like, it was accurate, and even just the storyline of him trying to take out Kylo Ren, I thought that was even accurate.
Well,
too,
right,
you know?
yeah. So you knew that there was something more to that. Like, he's not just going to leave Leia behind. Well,
Melee.
So
Stop.
I thought that was, your little baby over there.
Yeah.
I see what he's up to.
Yeah.
I forgot where I was. Anyway, okay. Well, you make good points. You make some good points. So that's fine.
Okay, you got some
I was happier with it the second time around. I was really pissed off the first time around, and then I was okay with it the second time around.
All right.
The other thing, which is just baffling to me, and I don't understand, is like how they treated Captain Phasma in this movie. Because you have two really poor showings from her. Yeah. And now she's dead. I mean, and here's the thing. She falls a long way into fire, into nothing, into the void.
Well, yeah. I was talking to Jackie about this, and she has a Disney death, which is hilarious. I thought that I was like laughing. The falling into the flames and not saying anything. It's so classic Disney. But I just was like, yeah, all right.
But I mean, like, okay, why not?
Right?
Why not? But I mean, it just feels like, for a character that they can definitely market. And I mean, and you can say this about a lot of things in the movie, from Kylo's mask to Snoke to, you know, like, just,
they just threw on.
We're going to find new stuff now. It's like, okay, yeah. No, if you want to dress up like Kylo Ren, you just have to get really, you know, in shape. You know? Try to look like Adam Driver. All right. I want to talk about likes now.
Oh, you want to do likes?
I do.
Right. Do you want to just start with yours or what?
Can I, please?
All right. No, okay. I know you've been ready for it.
2 years. 2 years.
Yeah, okay.
For 2 years, I've been talking about this.
All right.
And that is, I've been wanting to see, and I knew it was going to happen, but a heavy dose of Reylo.
Yeah, I know.
And we get it in this movie, and I feel like I was surrounded by a bunch of naysayers, like I was at some stable where they have all these horses, and you know, when you look at these two in The Force Awakens, it's there, and I've argued that it's there, and I got to see this with my girlfriend, who also really has shipped this and, argued that, yes, it's got to be, it's, it's the villain and the hero and they're going to fall for each other. And every time we got a scene, it was exactly how we thought. They were going to have the connection. They were going to do force Skype or however you want to call it, which is so cool. But I mean, I just was geeking out the whole time. But what I really think is special about it, because in a way, some of these scenes are like the most romantic thing that I think we're probably going to get in Star Wars. But what I really like about it is that when they work together to fend off the Praetorian Guard and everything,
yes,
and they both save each other. Kylo chooses to save Rey. I don't think it was his intention at the beginning to kill Snoke, but yes, Snoke didn't give him a choice. And what I really liked was that Snoke just wanted Rey dead. There wasn't like, he knew Rey needed to be gone.
Yes.
But there's no way that Kylo Ren was going to stand for that. And so I like that they both worked together and they saved each other. And I think true to form, he's not going to turn and she can't give in to him. And so I love that they had that scene that, like, it's totally true to their characters.
Yes.
You've got someone you love who you cannot save, and and from their perspective they think they're right, and you think you're right from your perspective.
Yep.
And you end up fighting over Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, and it's I love that it went that way, and that also. That I think we get the villain we deserve. I think, these are the best actors that they have in the franchise. It sets them up really well for, the final battle.
Yep, and it's so funny. Like, I remember when I was watching this movie, and again, I went with Jackie, so with my girl, she was just like, Ian's gonna love this movie. It's mostly Reylo. Like, it's mostly Reylo. and I'm like, yep,
Jackie.
It is. And she's like super excited about hearing this podcast because she's like, I know Ian's gonna geek out about it. I know it's gonna happen. And so it's so funny because it's exactly what I would expect. Because I was thinking the exact same thing when I saw this movie. It's just like, wow, this is basically just Reylo, like through the whole thing. And we have plenty of proof in the podcast that you called it a long time ago. So it's just like it's just so funny, man. And I'd have to agree with you, man. I really enjoyed the Reylo scene. Like, I enjoyed seeing them. That whole sequence is really good. Them saving each other, him killing Snoke, and then just even the sequence itself with actually having some pretty cool fight sequences, like choreography. It was really cool.
Yeah. And
just having the different guards have their own different weapons and style of fighting was really cool. So it was just like, everything about that sequence is just really good. It's really good. So that was one of my favorite scenes of the movie, hands down.
I think, as far as developing Rey and developing Kylo Ren, just stepping aside from Reylo, I thought this was where, they really got it right. It's just they're such interesting characters, and so much more got layered in. And even though, like, I felt like, maybe like some of the other characters, like Admiral Holdo, I mean, like, her sacrifice and everything, I think was hugely important because it leveled the playing field.
Yes.
It really took out, a lot of their ships and everything.
Yeah,
and
that was a great scene.
I really want to see, like, an even fight. I think it needs to be even. And I think it's, with Carrie's performance in this, and really Mark's, I think it's cool that it's now on the young cast and the young characters. And I'm really interested to see what happens, because I think it's pretty obvious that Carrie was going to have a huge part in the next movie, and
Yes.
maybe Mark can come back and take on some of that.
I have no idea what's going to happen with that, because it definitely feels like she was supposed to have a very large part in the next movie. And I even remember, like, Kathleen Kennedy even mentioning that was kind of how this was supposed to go. You got Han's movie, you got Luke's movie, and you got Leia's movie. And unfortunately, Carrie Fisher's gone, so I'm not sure what they're going to do with that and how they're going to deal with it, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I think one of the other likes, and it's just tough because there's a lot of little things that I like, but the caretakers on Octu are just incredible, and
yeah, right?
I really want to see them go back just to have a scene there. I love them. They're freaking awesome. They're just in a little part of this movie.
Yep. There's a lot of little funny moments with them. I just love when she shoots the blaster
I know,
through,
God,
and they're just like,
so
what the hell? Like, you can tell they're just yelling, what the hell's going? What is this? This is bullshit. Like, you just tell that their actions are just like, this is such bullshit. And I love how it was a run-on joke through the whole sequence while Rey was there, that she was just causing them trouble the whole time. Like, she cuts off that rock, and they're just walking with a wheelbarrow or something, and then bam! And you're just they're like, what the hell? And they look up, and she's just like, just such a,
I don't think they like me very much.
I couldn't figure out why. And it was just such a funny sequence with her and the caretakers. It was freaking great. Which is another one of my likes about this movie, is there's just a lot of fun sequences. When we talked about Maz's scene early on, all the scenes with the caretakers are funny, and then you have the scenes with Finn are just kind of real funny, and even just some of the one-liners with Poe is just great too. So it's just a lot of little things that are just so much fun in this movie. It just kind of makes you giggle.
What else do you got, buddy?
We've pretty much done everything. I've been kind of interjecting in between what you're saying. So, I've already, I said the Reylo scene. I talked about the scenes that I liked that were fun. And the only other thing I have to say is I enjoyed the character development in this movie, because it is there. It's not a lot, but it's definitely there. You get some development with Finn, and we talked about this earlier in my quirks, but the like side of it is the character development does happen. Poe Dameron becomes more of a leader. Finn becomes less of a coward, and you have Rey dealing with her issues with her parents, and then dealing with her. She got a lot more character development, because you dealt more with her parents and how she's basically come from nothing, and you get more of a forward with her dealing with her conflict when it has to do with the light side and the dark side, and dealing with Kylo. So just all the characters that I really enjoyed, and so that was that was my only other like that I wanted to add in, and that was it.
Alrighty, you ready to rate it?
Yeah. Let's rate this thing. All right,
yeah.
So yes.
Okay.
Let's rate this thing. Sorry, I was listening to the dang car going by. So many freaking cars. Anyway, I will have to say that I really enjoyed this story. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the character development, and I thought it was just a fun movie. And I'm not exactly sure. I hear a lot of fans complaining about this movie, and maybe because it's not as Star Warsy as they want, because it is a little different. But I thought that there was a lot of sequences that felt like Star Wars to me, and there was a lot of stuff that harkened back to the previous movie and the prequels, or not the prequels, but the second trilogy. So I think you should see it. I really enjoyed this movie, so I'm going to say see it.
Well, I'm going to go with see it twice. I think there's just that much, and I think it's a really good movie on top of it.
I definitely wouldn't mind watching it again and see if there's stuff that I've missed.
I really did not catch the first time around that she took the books. I mean, I sort of gathered that when Yoda had his line, but yep. I almost blinked and missed it when Finn kind of shows the audience.
Yep, he opens up the drawer to cover up Rose, and the books are there. They're in the drawer. Yep. So I saw that sequence. Or saw that scene.
And I can just, and this is me being completely selfish, but I can watch Kylo and Rey stare at each other for 2 hours easy. So...
Oh my god.
That's me being objective, right? Is that the right word? No? Yes? No.
Alright, Jones, we're signing out.
No, wait. Okay.
If anybody wants to contact us, you always have our home on the web, halfpastpodcast.com.
Like us on Facebook.
We're on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify.
We're on Stitcher, Libsyn, and TuneIn.
halfpastcast@gmail.com is our email. That's halfpastcast@gmail.com.
Tweet us. That's right, tweet us. Wink. That's what Luke Skywalker was doing to that weird sea cow thing. He was tweeting it. Half-past.
We cannot go a full podcast without you saying this. It's just like, what?
Wait a minute, though. Me stating a fact, as ridiculous as it sounds, is not on me. I mean, had I just pulled that out of thin air. But it happens in the movie.
Alright, that's fine.
Oh, jeez.
I'd like to thank everybody for listening. Thanks for your support. It always keeps us going, though, and you guys are listening.
Oh, what comes next?
Next week, we're going to try to do The Shape of Water. Okay. We have to get this Guillermo del Toro movie.
I'll get to it, Peter.
To do this because we're fans. We're this podcast is fans of Del Toro.
Yes, we are.
So we'll definitely have to
Friends
do that.
of
That'll
Del
be
Toro.
Our next movie. So it's just... Oh, I can't wait to see it. I think it'll be a fun... At the very least, it'll be freaking gorgeous. At the very least. So, that's all I can't wait for. You got anything else, Jones?
No.
You don't need to use the Force to get yourself from outer space and back into a ship?
Superman's got nothing on Leia.
Right?
That's what I should have said. Damn it, I should have circled that in my notes. Superman and Leia having a cup of tea or something. So I can fly through space. And Leia's like, that's not that impressive. That's not that impressive. What else you got? What else you got, big boy?
Oh, yeah, that's hilarious. Alright, Jones. This is the Half-Past Podcast. I'm Graham Ricks.
Jonesy.
See you next flick.